Hey, my name is Aaron Marcus, and I've been very fortunate in the industry, and I've been able to make my living as a full-time actor for like 40 years now.
You've been able to make a living at it? That I
Yeah,
didn't know. That's awesome, man, because most people can't.
it's really hard, and honestly, it's getting harder to do that, especially living in a secondary market like Baltimore,
Yeah.
where there used to be a lot more work. So now I find that most of my work is out of town. The last thing I did locally, the big thing, it was the HBO miniseries, We Own the City, and that's been a little while, but that's the last big project that I know of where they were casting principal actors.
Acting is your main focus, right?
Yeah, acting and I also get commercial modeling. Yeah, and I do mentor people. I do say 5 days every month. I have YouTube videos. Those are all free. There are over 400 videos there. It's a great library. So if you're interested in learning more about the industry, Season Pass Pro Acting and Modeling virtual program that people can sign up for. And I do a lot of workshops.
Just like you, just trying to help people out, saying, look, I've done green screen like you guys, and we worry about it, the wrinkles, the shadows being too close. It's like a green box. If you put the lights behind it, really know if anybody really cared, but I was trying to help.
And there's one casting director who hates green screens.
The honest truth is it works with any color as long as it's different than you. I mean, when I did the Alien movie, because I had fluorescent things, I actually had to use a purple screen, which
Really.
nobody uses, but they don't understand. The purple would go with the chrome suit, so you really couldn't tell. Yeah, you got to use whatever color you can.
Yeah, you just have to make sure you're not wearing green, as you know, because
Right.
I've
Oh,
seen.
because they were wearing the chrome, their whole suit was disappearing in front of them. I had a blonde lady that had no head because her hair was more yellow. So, for years she didn't have a head, and I had to figure out how to put her head back on there.
It is funny you bring that up. So I've also been hired to do some casting, and I've had people submit their auditions for the project. I guess there are still a lot of people who just don't know about basic editing, but I do know casting directors. If you don't follow their directions, you don't do things properly, you don't label things, they're just going to delete it because they're thinking, hey, the person's not responsible, and I don't want to deal with that person.
I don't want to look down on people because, like, if you send me a video audition and it's bad, do 10, 15 of them and send me the best one.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. And I'll tell you, I feel the same way as you. I have mixed feelings about how the industry has changed, at least for me, for film and television. I haven't been in a casting director's office in, over 4 years now. The one thing that's definitely true, I will give a better audition if I'm standing in front of the casting director because I can ask questions to the
yeah,
casting director. There's a show, Netflix, House of Cards. They shot it in Baltimore. It was pretty incredible. And I auditioned for that show 15 times. It was the 15th audition where I booked a reoccurring role. I mean, look, I know they liked what I was doing. Otherwise, casting directors don't bring you back a second time unless they really liked what you did. I got a chance to ask the casting director with this character. And she said, "Oh, will you work for her?" Okay, well, that completely
yeah, completely
changed
changed.
the way I was going to read it. I never would have been able to do that if I was doing my audition at home. On the flip side, living in Baltimore and traveling to New York for a 2-minute audition,
Right.
spend all day long in parking or buses or trains and getting around the city. So I do have a better life because of that. But I will give a better audition if I'm able to
Yeah,
audition for the director or the casting director live.
it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Each situation is different. Well, that's why I prefer just to give everybody like three lines in a movie. That way they come, I see what they can do. They can't screw up the three lines. I don't care how bad you are. I can make you look good. And we kind of get a feel of each other. The only person that ever really gave me trouble was when I first met my wife, Peachy. She came in for the three lines, came in the basement, and she was like, "What's my backstory?" I was like, "You got three lines, lady. Just say the three line." And she's like, "I need to know my motivation, my backstory." I was like, "Get out the door." But then she came back the next week and just never left.
Wow. But
So,
and that's interesting because sometimes I've had auditions with one word. You'd be surprised how much you can really think about and put in just to saying one word. There are so many different ways of doing it. Don't ever, ever, ever try to guess what the director wants or what the casting director is looking for. They don't know most of the time. They're looking for someone to surprise them, to give them something interesting.
Yeah, I don't have no vision of what I'm doing until it's already edited and done. I got an outline, but it's like, yeah. But even when I did Alien Parasite, I actually casted the movie before I even wrote it because I had them down there, and basically the people that I thought did good, it basically built in my mind. But I have a hell audition. It kind of falls on your little one word thing. Just say, I want this role over and over again, happy, sad, mad. Because if you could tell the difference between sad and mad and happy and glad, them facial expressions, that's everything. To be able to change just slightly from that, then you are a really good actor. But yeah, putting them on the spot, they don't like that.
It kind of
I want
reminds
this role. I want
It kind
this.
of it kind of reminds me of what you're talking about. It almost sounds like I don't know if you heard of that guy Frank Zappa, the musician, who actually I think was born in Baltimore. He was anyhow. He's the talk about he would like to record the album and then practice it later.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, everybody does things differently. But I did want to ask you about your whole mentoring thing because I think people have changed over the years. And it's harder to recommend people. I mean, when you're mentoring them, you're kind of guiding them, right? Or are you like kind of not promoting them, but do you refer people?
yeah, sometimes I do refer people out, but most of the time it's really more information and allowing me to share my experiences in this industry.
Well, you know Brian Dragonoff, right? Years before he passed away, I ran into him downtown and he told me he's the first one. I realized that people weren't like sending in their headshots as much or whatever. And Brian told me, he was like, Jimmy, I can't even refer people anymore. He goes, they have changed so bad that they make me look bad if I refer them because
Oh
they're
yeah.
so bad when they show up that they get offended. It's and go off on the actors. He was like, I'm just here to try to help actors, but it is true that, small bunch can spoil the whole thing.
And you're right. You have to be very careful because look, your reputation's on the line as well. So if you recommend somebody,
Other
because
other filmmakers have come to me and said, "Hey, I need this type of person or that type of person." I was like, "Look, the old ways is still the best ways. When I'm filming, you come over, and when you're working on my set, if you see somebody you like, you go to them and you say, "Hey, I'm doing a project. Would you like?" But I'm not telling. I don't know how you're going to act to them, and then that's going to look bad on me.
no, absolutely. And you know, it's the same thing with agents. A lot of times actors don't realize that not only are you representing yourself, out in the world, but you're also representing your agent. And, you show up to an audition and you're not prepared, or you show up on set and you're not prepared. That looks really bad on you as a professional. It also makes the agent look bad. And I can tell you, and I know this has happened, if it happens enough times, people stop contacting the agent because they don't trust the agent's talent. Man, it's your reputation is everything.
Since you brought it up, buddy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
you brought it up.
Uh-oh. Should I
So
be
what
putting on my
what is,
Kevlar
what
jacket?
is the honest reputation you hear of me? Because
You know,
we've known each other for a long time here and there, but we never actually talked.
yeah, I'm sure we know a million people in
But we
common.
definitely know,
Yeah,
we
and
did.
I tell you, for people who didn't know Brian, he was a really nice guy. When I used to do local workshops, I used to bring Brian in to talk about the industry because he was a straight shooter
Yeah.
and he was a nice guy and he was very honest. What he did for actors was really, really incredible.
I mean, I don't want to take it away from him because it's all his, but the honest truth is, I gave Brian his first speaking role, and we were sitting there, and the actress that showed up, she had a really bad headshot. Okay. She looked like she was 40 when she was 18. right? And I compared her with Brian. Naturally, she left, and I was like, oh man, I need an actress. And so there was an actress from New York that I called up. I didn't know she was from New York. I called her up, and she was like, I'll be right there. I was like, hey, you gonna be right there? You're from New York. And she was like, I'm in the car now. If it's a speaking part, I'm in the car now. So
Wow.
I was like, what are you going to do? And he goes, I'll hang with you, Jimmy. So for 3 hours, we're sitting there, and he was like, there should be a website to where actors could put their stuff on there. So he was basically
Wow.
the wheels of his whole Brian Dragano website was
Next.
right there. And it was kind of cool
Wow.
that years later I would see him put it up there and kind of promote the actors and stuff like that. But it was all
Yeah.
sitting there waiting for an actress to drive from New York to Baltimore.
And that's so interesting. I hear a story like that about this woman coming down from New York. And once again, I know everybody does things differently.
Right. And the projects also, you can never know. There's little things that could screw it up. You can never know that it's going to be great. Music could be too loud, music might not fit, sound and all that. And then there's projects I just like, hey, let's just turn on the camera, and they're masterpieces.
Did a commercial modeling job, it turned into a national television commercial. And so sometimes and actually that's happened to me a couple times, you just never know where one job might take you,
Right.
or when you're working with somebody, where those people might end up. I did some stand-in work on that movie, Runaway Bride, that Gary Marshall directed. It was many, many, many years ago. People were complaining because Gary Marshall would bring in his friends, people who he worked with before on his projects. He even had a secretary, and people were really angry about it. My thought was, I'd want to be surrounded by people I like too.
And
So,
that's not why he did it. I could tell you exactly why he did it, because there's so many things that you got to worry about when you're doing a movie, but every person that you know that you can put into those parts, that's one less thing you have to worry about. That's what I always tell people that, and even my wife is like, why you cast the same people? Because those I don't have to worry about. These other parts that are new, there's so many stresses. They're the few things that you don't have to worry about. You don't have,
yeah,
and that's why Adam Sandler does it too. It's it's not favoritism. It's there are the little things we don't have to worry about because there's 1,000 problems, and you can eliminate about 50 of them, and you
yeah.
don't have to stress about those. They're going to show up. They're going to know what they're due. Don't get me wrong. I've had people that I considered my friends for a long time that showed up and was unprepared. That's a whole different story, because that's like the respect out the window. Let's meet out back in a minute. Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned Adam Sandler. Actually, I just auditioned for the Happy Gilmore 2 that he's making. And yeah, I was
I
thinking,
knew I knew that was coming as soon as I watched Axel Foley on there, and I saw Shooter McGowan just in this one little scene. I was like, Christopher McDonald ain't gonna do one little clip unless something is coming. And he's playing
yeah.
golf. I was like, and then boom, they announced it.
So for people who are angry, about, hey, he just hires his friends all the time. Well, then become friends with Adam Sandler, and then you can be part of that group.
Your mind is going so many different places when you got money on the line, you got projects on the line, you got time on the line. TikTok, I gotta get this scene here. Those are the people that aren't going to cause you stress.
Yeah.
And that's why they're there. Is any little help is better than no help. And then you can focus on, oh, well, we need better lighting here. I wouldn't have been able to think about that because I needed to fill up all these other positions. So
Honestly, I don't know how you do it. Oh man, you've got a tough job.
well, mine, I've done it so many years, like 32 years, to where I'll be honest, buddy, I don't even plan my stuff until the people walk through the door. I have like an outline. Hey, I want to do this. I'll send you the script. I'll get the cameras and lights ready, but I don't even worry about nothing until they walk through the door, because if somebody cancels or I got to change it, I'm filming no matter what, but I might have to change that script. People cancel more than ever nowadays. That's a big stress. Not They just don't understand what they're doing to the filmmaker and to the other actors, because then everything gets switched around on them.
As actors, we're salespeople. We are selling ourselves, and we are running a business, and we are the product.
I know one actress called me up a long time ago when they had that Young American show, because her agent and everybody was telling her, hey, you just got a speaking part on this show and all that. And she was like, but Jimmy, I already got booked something else. I promised them I would be there and all that. And I was like, well, me, I'm more about honor, but you do what you want to do. And she listened to everybody else, and then she pretty much never did anything again. And the Young Americans thing didn't really take off, you know, but they're like, they're convincing her to go against her morals for the bigger opportunity rather than knowing. See, the way I look at it is one door closes, another one opens. If you live your life that way of, okay, yeah, the timing didn't work for that one, but I do this one, it's really where you're going to be happy.
Have you ever had somebody come to you and say, "Hey, look, in this scene, I'm just not comfortable doing this in the scene"? Yeah, because I only saw like little clips from some of your films. And I mean, I didn't see anything that would be an issue, but have you, or maybe some language or dialogue that somebody says, I'm just not comfortable doing. Have you ever run?
I had one actress that she was against saying the F word, yet when she came, you know, she was behind bars and she's supposed to be cussing at the guy. I was like, well, change it around, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter to me as long as you give a good performance, you know. But then on the other hand, I had one actress show up here. We were doing a read through for a script that we were going to shoot in Pennsylvania, and she was like, let me read the script." I was like, "You agreed to do the movie and you haven't read the script?" And she literally turned to me and said, "Jimmy, it's you. It doesn't matter. I just want to read it."
Oh,
I was like,
oh,
"All
wow.
right, that's like the ultimate compliment there," you know.
Oh, I thought you were heading in another direction with
No,
that.
no, that's a good one. You know, that was a good one. But usually, no. I mean, everybody knows my scripts are basically outlines. Although it did backfire on me a couple of times. One actress came up to Pennsylvania and she was like, "Do I really need to know my lines or can I just wing it?" It's like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, I heard from a lot of people that you just let us improv as long as we have the basic." I was like, "Yeah, but I prefer you just try to say the lines, you know?" But yes, you can. I mean, it makes it, but I told her, I said, you improv makes it harder for me to edit it.
Sure.
You don't understand that. But yes, if you improv it and look better, I look better.
I guess the easiest thing there is, hey, let's do the lines first. Once we have that, then if you want to
Yeah,
play,
but that's what I have most of the time is they can't do the lines. So I had one script that we wrote out, everybody practiced it and all that. I won't say what the script is, but the lead actor who I wasn't played in a lot of my movies couldn't do none of the lines. So we literally had to throw the script, the whole feature script out the window and wing the whole movie because he was throwing off the other actors who practiced the lines. And I was like, okay, it's that in that case, it is one bad apple spoiling the whole bunch. But I had to make an executive decision of chuck the script out. We know the outline. Go ahead and just improv because then they could actually feed off of him. But
yeah.
when they're trying to say their lines, they're like, he's not saying what he needs to say. So I can say this. And I was like, yeah, he can't do it. So just chuck it out the window.
You know what it was about the lines that made it so difficult for him?
Some actors, I mean, you've dealt with a lot of actors, and so have I. And I can tell you right now, it's the pressure that they can't handle when the lights are on. It's like there's some people that audition really well. And then when you go to film, they can't do shit, you
Yeah.
know, because the pressure's on with the lights and the cameras. Auditions freed them up. And it's the vice versa. Some people that screw up the audition, but yet you put them on film and they're really good. It's basically you have to know how to you have to know how to work with whoever you got. Have some actors to where I got to be like, say the line, and be tough with them, almost to crossing a level because they need that to get out of the I don't want to screw up, I don't want to say it wrong. But now that they're a little bit, I'm going to say it. I told you I'm honest. That they're a little bit angry with me. Now they can actually act.
Yeah.
But, you know, we talk it out afterwards, but it's some you have to baby, some you have to be forceful, some you
Yeah.
have to get rid of the script. You got to know what you can do. That's a sign of
Okay.
a filmmaker.
I'll tell you, I was working on it was a movie. It was a number of years ago in Atlanta called Irresistible that John Stewart wrote and directed. He was so incredible to work with, and there were, and I'm not going to mention the name, a pretty famous actor, and for whatever reason, this guy was having trouble with just a couple of lines. I mean, the guy was doing everything else, and he's an incredible actor. And look, some directors, like you were saying, they'll start, hitting the person like, "Hey, come on, what's the problem? We got a lot of time." Well, he went in another direction. He said, "Yeah, I know the lines aren't all that great. I apologize." And basically, he's blaming it on himself as the writer,
Right.
so that the actor didn't feel bad. I might have to talk this way to this other person in a very different way because that speaks to that person. So, in some ways, I guess it's also a real advantage of you working with people who so you know how to deal with them. And, basically your job is to get the most out of them and to, have them do a great job.
I mean, you can know all your lines and you get to work, but you can't tell them, oh, my mom just died. You don't know what's going through their head. What do you have coming up?
I mean, I've just done a bunch of auditions. You never know. I mean, as you know, in this industry, sometimes you find out in a week, sometimes it could be a month later. If you go to my website, you can find the link on YouTube. It's just how to act and model.
But I appreciate your time, man.